e rere ana nā whakaro, nui ki nā aitua e whakare, ko te arahanui ki o rātou whānau. Ina kai urangi o tēnā waka, tēnā koutou. Kia koutou katoa, nā kai whatu, nā kai tuitui, o tēnei tuitui nā nui, neo ka mihi. Greetings. Can I start by thanking Rongomai Wahine for the warmth of your welcome. I'm especially flattered by any comparison at all to your tupuna. It is much kinder than many of the other comparisons that I receive. Thank you also for acknowledging this place as my adopted home. It means my plan is working. Many of you may know that Mokotahi Hill was the place where Clark proposed to me. Now the wedding may never happen, but at least it was here, where the commitment to one day be married was made. Clark tells me that he planned for a long time to ask, but he would only ask here in Māhia, because it was so special to him and to his whānau. I want to especially acknowledge those who are with us today from the Tuia 250 committee that have worked so hard on what we have experienced over the past few months. Dame Jenny and Huturo, I particularly want to acknowledge both of you in the leadership role that you've played. In particular, Huturo, when we asked you whether or not you would be a part of this kaupapa, I'm not sure you necessarily knew what you were getting yourself into. Or maybe you did. And maybe that was a sign of the strength and mana that you hold, that you were willing to take this role on. I know it hasn't been easy, but the leadership that you have shown has been extraordinary. And from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for saying yes and for what you've done for all of us in Aotearoa. There are many in this group here who have been part of this kaupapa, who have brought life to the whakatoki that was guiding us through Tuia 250. And that was weaving people together for a shared future. Weaving, in many ways, has no end. And that needs to be the legacy of Tuia. That today we don't mark the conclusion. We mark the beginning of our journey. This cannot be the end. And if this was the end, then we had gone about it all wrong. And so I want to share a little bit about the beginning of our journey. You see the most important part of it in front of you, the crew. Those who journeyed with waka throughout New Zealand, sharing a history and a legacy that so little is known about in Aotearoa, and that must change. 400 individuals sailed. Hundreds of young people experienced both waka and tall ships as you navigated around New Zealand, as you shared the knowledge that you have, as you taught our tamariki and our rangatahi. And I cannot imagine a better gift to leave Aotearoa than the knowledge that you have shared. 40,000 people visited the waka and the ships. 40,000. When I visited in Tamaki Makaurau, they told me that they had exceeded the record for visits in both New Zealand and Australia with the people who had come down to share and to learn, and that is the legacy that you leave. But those numbers, they don't capture what you've left behind. The stories do. On the very first day in the opening of Tuia, just that experience of having our Pacific whānau there at that very beginning. A lady from Australia came over to me and said that she had spent over a decade following the endeavour and the many places where it had birthed over the years. She told me what she experienced, Te Ranganui a Kiwa, was unlike anything that she had ever experienced before in her life. And that was replicated many times throughout New Zealand. Or the story of the rangatahi I met who had sailed on the waka, who told me how life-changing that experience was and how they'd gone home to their whānau and shared what they had learnt, and that some of their parents had never heard these stories before, and they were the ones imparting that knowledge. Or the day that I stood in the education truck that has travelled around the country, I stood quietly in a corner as I watched grandparents with their mokopuna learning, sharing, laughing, walking away with books of knowledge to share with their family and their friends. Or the remarkable day when I sat on the marae with Rongo Whakata and reflected on just days earlier when the High Commissioner had shared that expression of regret with Rongo Whakata and Ngāti Onioni and the impact that that had on both of those iwi. And I want to acknowledge you, High Commissioner. That set the tone for what Tuia was meant to be, a place of healing, debate, discussion, hard conversations. And I can't thank you enough for the role that you've played in that. Tuia has brought those conversations. It's brought debate. Some places it's brought protest. That's always what Tuia was meant to be about. Because without that, we would be ignoring the history that we have, ignoring the stories that need to be told and have not been told before. Now our obligation is to continue. That legacy will continue through, for instance, our commitment to finally teach New Zealand's history in our kura and our schools throughout Aotearoa. That legacy will be continued, for instance, through the internships that we created that were announced in Tairāwhiti to continue the legacy of learning and imparting knowledge amongst one another. And those internships will come from young people or those who have a connection to Tairāwhiti, and they'll work with my Chief Science Advisor. And that legacy will continue through waka. That's why I wanted to share with you all today that I've asked for advice on how we can keep the legacy of waka building and voyaging alive and well in Aotearoa. I'll be getting that advice in the new year, and I look forward to making announcements, a solid commitment to you, all of you, that we will keep the legacy that you have begun with Tuia, particularly through the knowledge imparted through waka. Finally, I'm holding with me a commemorative coin. It was created in the year 2000 when Gisborne was the first to see the light. Many of us remember that, not everyone. But on the coin is a depiction of the endeavour. I was given this coin over a year ago when I came to meet with iwi who were carrying with them what I would describe as the burden of being the first place to begin Tuia. And one of the members of the iwi, a representative from the iwi, gave me this coin and said, "Prime Minister, we have had many attempts to commemorate and acknowledge the arrival of Cook in the past, and we have not done it correctly. I'm giving you this coin, and you may give it back to me if you get it right this time." I'm hoping I have permission to give this back. And I give it back not because we have concluded, but because we have begun. I think the best words that can impart what that means for all of us will come from Sir Heck Busby, the great Sir Heck Busby, whose legacy we all carry the burden of now. He said, "Go through carefully and knowingly. If you go too fast, you'll get stuck from behind. If you take your time, you'll get there." I believe in my heart we will get there if we take our time together. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.